Harper Audio presents Legal Tender, a Rosato and Associates novel by Lisa Scottoline, performed by Kate Burton. 1. I edged forward on my pew in the gallery so I wouldn't miss a single word. My ex-lover's new girlfriend, Eve Eberline, was about to be publicly humiliated by the Honorable Edward J. Thompson. I wanted to dance with joy right there in the courtroom. Hell hath no fury like a lawyer scorned. Let me remind you of something you have plainly forgotten, Ms. Eberline, Judge Thompson was saying between discreetly clenched teeth. A bald, gentlemanly judge, his legendary patience had been tested by Eve's attack on the elderly witness. This is a court of law. There are rules of conduct, civility, manners. One doesn't check common courtesy at the door of my courtroom. Your Honor, this witness is not being candid with the court, Eve said. Her spiky brunette cut bounced in defiance as she stood before the dais, in perfect makeup and a red knit suit that fit her curves like an ace bandage. Not that I was jealous. Utter nonsense, Ms. Eberline, Judge Thompson scoffed, peering down through reading glasses that matched his robe. I will not permit you to cast aspersions on the character of a witness. You have asked her the same question over and over, and she's told you she doesn't remember where the CTOR file is. She retired 2 years ago, if you recall. Move on to your next question, counsel. With all due respect, Your Honor, Mrs. Debs was the records custodian at Wellroth Chemical, and she remembers perfectly well where the CTOR file is. I tell you, the witness is lying to the court. Eve pointed like a manicured Zola at Mrs. Debs, whose powdered skin flushed a deep pink. My goodness, she exclaimed, hand fluttering to the pearls at her chest. Mrs. Debs had a halo of fuzzy gray hair and a face as honest as Aunt Bee's. I would never, ever lie to a court, she said, and anybody with any sense could see she was telling the truth. Heavens, I swore on a Bible. Miss Eberline, Judge Thompson exploded, you're out of order. He grabbed his gavel and pounded it hard. Crack, crack, crack. Meanwhile, Mark Biscardi, my ex-boyfriend and still current law partner, was fake reading exhibits at counsel table. He was downplaying the debacle for the jury's benefit, but was undoubtedly listening to every syllable. I hoped he remembered my prediction that Eve would crash and burn today, so I could say, I told you so. I object, Your Honor, shouted plaintiff's counsel, Jerry McIlvaine. Ms. Eberline's conduct toward this witness is an outrage. An outrage. McIlvaine, a trial veteran, had been standing out of the crossfire, keeping his mouth shut until it was time to grandstand for the jury. All the courtrooms a stage, and all the men and women in it merely lawyers. Then suddenly, I began to focus on the jury box. Most of the jurors in the front row were scowling at Eve as Judge Thompson continued his lecture. 2 jurors in the back, retirees like Mrs. Debs, bore a prim smile at Eve's comeuppance. Eve had alienated the lot, and it would taint their view of the defendant's case. Unfortunately, this was a high-stakes trial, and the defendant was a major client of my law firm, Rosato and Biscardi, alias R&B. Damn. I sat up straighter and looked worriedly at Mark, but he was stuck playing with the trial exhibits. He and I had started R&B 7 years ago and watched it grow into one of the most successful litigation boutiques in Philadelphia. I cared about the firm so much, I couldn't even enjoy watching Eve screw up something besides my love life. Something had to be done. I stood up in the middle of the proceedings, calling attention to myself without a word because of my height, a full 6 feet. It's a great height for a trial lawyer, but as a teenager I stood by so many punch bowls I got sick from the fumes. I grew up to be taller, blonder, and stronger, so that now I look like an Amazon with a law degree. Ouch, said the lawyer sitting next to me as I trounced solidly on his wingtip. Oh, excuse me, I yelped, almost as loudly as Judge Thompson, still scolding Eve with the jury's rapt attention. Shh, said another lawyer. Sorry, so sorry, I chirped, struggling out of the crowded row like a boor going for Budweiser in the 2nd inning. I noticed out of the corner of my eye that one of the jurors, the Hispanic man on the end, was being successfully distracted. Oops,
Sample complete. Ready to continue?